one whose premature birth prevented her internal organs from developing properly. A child born with Down syndrome or cerebral atrophy. Children diagnosed with attention deficit or hyperactivity disorder. These are but a few of the 100 children treated annually by the staff of the Rocky Mountain Rehabilitation Center. Children who, because of disabling birth defects, diseases, or injuries, require a specialized program of professional care, and whose parents, during a time of fear and confusion, simply ask that someone stand by me.
When the night has come.
Stand By Me, a profile of the Rocky Mountain Rehabilitation Center, brought to you by Colorado Tech. Special people helping special people.
No, I won't be afraid. Oh, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. So, darling.
The future. What will we find? All we know for sure is that as spaceship Earth hurtles toward its rendezvous with tomorrow, our journey is fueled by technology.
Plug us in.
And education.
Thank you. Where's Earth? You should know. That's not our system. Scan.
Knowledge will guide us, and technology will provide the answers to questions
I found it.
as yet unasked.
Now that's our system. I know that.
Every day, Colorado Tech is preparing its students for that journey with a multi-million-dollar commitment to building the finest educational resource in our region, with people who understand the relationship between man and machine, and with tools that have names like Oracle, IG Spice, and Ada. As we leave the 20th century, some will see only obstacles. We see only opportunity. Because at Colorado Tech, we know that the discoveries our students make tomorrow depend on how well we teach them today.
Stand by me, stand by me.
The pediatric staff here at the Rocky Mountain Rehabilitation Center sees a variety of needs in the children who come for therapy. The caseload ranges from speech and language delays to severe physical disabilities. As a basis for helping someone understand pediatric rehabilitation, two important foundations need to be looked at. First is understanding that the primary goal of the therapy team is not to help bring about a cure for their patients.
Laura, do it. Lou. There you go. Good, Laura. Let's go back over here. Pink.
Most, if not all of the children who come to Rocky Mountain Rehab for therapy have some type of birth defect, disease, or injury for which there is no cure.
I think when any parent finds out that they have a handicapped child, it's a devastating point in one's life. It's like a bomb's dropped, and it's difficult to even function. And when I first came here, my daughter was 16 months old, and this place was a support system for me. And I don't know what I would have done without it, because it's all I had besides faith in God. It's all that there was. The doctors never gave me any indication that anything was wrong. At about a year, she lost about every skill that she had. She just sank into a cocoon of her own. She had no response to anybody. She didn't know her own name. She didn't recognize me as her mom.
Weight-bearing. Rett syndrome, like Laura Lee has, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, or closed head injuries, are conditions which cannot be reversed.
And again, all of this is preparation for rolling, preparation for weight-bearing.
Given this reality, the therapist seeks to facilitate a process by which each child can develop his or her functional and perceptual skills to the highest degree possible, in light of the limitations placed upon them by their disability.
Good girl. Okay, and then we'll take her all the way over.
Secondly, one must realize that pediatric rehabilitation is a very long-term process. It is quite normal for a child to be involved in therapy for years, Just as anyone encounters various stages of development on their way to adulthood, a boy or girl with special needs faces them as well. The difference is they will need additional help in overcoming the challenges to growth and development. Currently, the Rocky Mountain Rehabilitation Center offers 3 major disciplines of therapy to meet these needs: physical therapy, occupational therapy, as well as speech and language therapy. Since most children require more than one therapy, this balanced design provides parents with the opportunity to have their child's entire therapy needs met under one roof. With this in mind, let's take a look at the physical therapy division of Rocky Mountain Rehab and at a very special young man named Kevin.
Good boy. And move the other hand. Let's take
The specific goals for a child entering physical therapy focus on developing and refining gross motor skills such as standing, walking, or running.
And just by my hand placements, I'm facilitating some of the steps that he's taking. Good for you, Kevin. When Kevin came to us, he came to us with a diagnosis of encephalocele. It's an outpouching of the brain through the skull. That was surgically repaired. And functionally, Kevin came to us basically crawling, walking with a very crouched gait. His muscles were very tight, and he was displaying some abnormal movement patterns. Can you tell me what your name is? What's your name? Is it Bob? Is it Roger? Is it Richard? Is it Kevin? That's your name, Kevin? Kevin what?
As therapy began, the initial goals were to develop Kevin's arms, legs, and trunk towards being able to walk. Hours were spent increasing flexibility and reducing the spastic nature of Kevin's muscles.
Okay, and every time that you get one out of here, I want you to take it with this hand. Okay? Ready? Can you get one? Okay, reach. Good for you. Now we're going to sit nice and straight. In physical therapy, we've concentrated on reducing those abnormal movement patterns, and you work on that through positioning. Some of the muscular tightness that he had, we worked on with passive range of motion, which is just taking the arms or the limbs through the normal range another one with this that they should have. Let's move this one up.
At the time that Kevin first started attending Rocky Mountain Rehab, his gross motor skills were fairly low for a child his age. He wasn't able to do a lot of things for himself, wasn't terribly self-sufficient. However, as he started attending the therapy, the physical therapy and the occupational therapy, we have found just in the past 2 years that he has learned to take steps on his own. He's learning how to open his coat and button it on his own. His vocabulary has increased dramatically, and overall he's just making great strides.
We can pull it apart like that, and if you hold on to the other side, you know what we could do?
The evening of January 2nd, 1991, saw Kevin do something for his mother that most parents enjoy at a much earlier date. Kevin took his first 5 steps in succession into his mother's waiting arms. And just last week, Kevin walked the length of the hallway.
Good job. You know that? Doing good. Thank you. You want to go see Paul again? The first time that Kevin took steps for me, it was a very emotional time. We had hoped for so long that he would eventually learn to walk, and when he took steps here for Paul, well, we were just very emotional and very excited about it all, and just to know that the chances of him leading a normal life were good.
Though his therapy will continue for years to come, the combination of Kevin's desire to achieve and the commitment and encouragement of his family and the staff here at Rocky Mountain Rehab has brought Kevin the joy of being able to do something that many of us take for granted: to walk.
Shed a tear just as long as you stand by me. And darling, stand by me.
Many practical activities, such as eating, dressing, or sitting in a chair, can pose a tremendous challenge to a child with a disability.
Hey, Kenna, get up. You gotta get up. Look at Daddy. Look what he's got.
Much self-worth and esteem is associated with a person being able to care for his or herself. During a session in occupational therapy, a child like Kenna, who was born with a mild case of cerebral palsy, spends a great deal of time working to increase her muscle tone and strength. Using a large exercise ball, the therapist helps Kenna become aware of moving side to side and up and down while developing strength and balance in her muscles.
Pull yourself up. Come on. Go ahead.
Kenna, you can do it. You can do it. Come on.
Kenna also spends a great deal of time working with her hands, especially the left hand, which has been affected by the cerebral palsy. The occupational therapist places her hand over Kenna's to model for Kenna how her hand should be used.
Let's use this hand like this.
No, don't be stubborn like your mommy. Get in here. Okay.
Go ahead. Get that in. When we first began therapy with Kenna, she was, her developmental stage was as progressed as a 4 to 5 month old infant. She could not move her left arm. It was in and the hand was shut tight. Now she can use her left arm. She's starting to incorporate into her play. She's bringing the arm into midline. 2 hands at the same time grabbing for something. That's very significant. Use both hands. Use both hands.
What?
Get both hands out there like this. Like this. Both hands.
Oh, give Ken a hug.
Good girl.
It's these small but significant milestones of achievement that the therapists build on.
My goals are the same for all the kids. One is to increase their independence and to make them as independent as they can possibly be. And the second is to maximize their potential. Because with every diagnosis, there are so many different levels of that disability that you really have to look at the individual. So we're looking at potentials, not at diagnosis.
Here.
As with all therapies, early intervention is a key to increasing the effectiveness of therapy, as well as preventing future complications from developing. Parents, like Kenna's, are encouraged to participate.
Good, Kenna. Good, Kenna. Well, the therapists here give us many suggestions for different types of exercise that we can do. We're primarily trying to get Kenna to increase the tone in her trunk so that she has some stability like this and forward and back. The kind of things that we'll do is to have her in a reclining position, pull herself up. And we'll also try to get her to bear weight on one side or the other.
Her parents are very involved in her development, and for her at such a young age, it's real important for her to have that interaction, because a lot of times she doesn't respond as well when mom and dad aren't in the room. And it's also important that they have an idea of what to do at home. We do a lot of parent training here, and that's, for Kenna, I think it's been very beneficial. She's gotten a lot out of that. Same thing when you lift up this way, and you pull back, it brings, oh, come on, let me show Mommy that it pulls her shoulder blades in. And if you do it on yourself,
Kenna,
you can feel it.
as do all the children at Rocky Mountain Rehab, has a long way to go. Therapy for Kenna is now including activities to help develop play skills such as sorting and stacking. These skills will be important forerunners to the later development of educational and daily living activities. To see a child like Kenna respond so positively to therapy brings a great deal of encouragement to Kenna's family.
Hi, Daddy.
Get that left hand on there.
Come on. No, don't be lazy.
When I first came in here last April, I was confused, scared. I felt totally alone. And the therapists, along with the staff, have really done just a tremendous job of making something that seemed so devastating to something that is becoming an asset for all of us as a family. And the therapists, Amy and Paul, we're like good friends.
and a sense of accomplishment to all the staff at the Rocky Mountain Rehabilitation Center.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see.
As important as being able to walk or use one's hands is the ability to communicate.
Look how pretty those elephants are. Now, what do you see?
No.
What do you see?
No, press
Mark.
J.
Okay, what do you see? Come on. C. Foxes. Okay, let's make them go.
Hearing skills, which help us process messages, and speech skills, which enable us to express ourselves, are vital elements of the communication process.
Here.
Listen to Dino. Where's B?
B.
B. Find B. There you go. Good job, Mark.
For a child with a speech or language disability, the challenge to communicate is overwhelming.
Mark. My turn. Can Dino have a turn? Watch. I pressed U. You see
Mark,
that, Mark?
one of Rocky Mountain Rehab's long-term friends, has been coming to the center for 3.5 years. Diagnosed with cerebral atrophy, Mark was barely speaking when he came to the center.
When we came to Rocky Mountain Rehab, Mark was not walking. He was taking maybe 3 or 4 steps, but it was more a controlled fall than an actual step. He was crawling really well, but as far as walking, he really wasn't doing anything. He was very tactile defensive. He didn't like anything touching him. He couldn't speak hardly any words. He never really did say mommy, daddy, the normal words that children said.
As speech and language therapy began, Mark was introduced to sign language.
Show me with your hands.
This was a stepping stone to help Mark eventually speak.
All right, do you want more?
More.
More what?
More.
Blocks. Okay, hang on. No, it's my turn.
Through the use of his gesture system, he was able to start communicating his needs and wants. And from that, his self-esteem, his self-motivation for learning has increased tremendously. And now that he's using sentences, it's nice to see the feedback that he gets from others. Fall down. Okay, one more, then we'll do the computer, okay? Yellow. Colors still give Mark some difficulty. And what helps without, again, my verbal cueing and trying to create more of an independent environment for Mark, I'll sign to him, like for instance, this is green, and he'll sign back to me green, and then he can say it. So it's reinforcing for him to know that he does remember that the sign green is the same as the word green. Computer what? Computer on. Okay.
Specialized computers and video equipment enable the speech pathologist to become more effective in early childhood intervention and training.
What? What happened?
Basically, the computer provides a visual image so that Mark can immediately see what I want him to express and how I would like for him to use his vocabulary. He sees the picture, and I ask him to, first of all, say what he sees, and then to make a short story out of that picture. And then from that, if he does do what I ask him to do, he's easily reinforced by the music that the computer plays, which is a good auditory reinforcer. And second of all, it allows him to recognize both numbers and letters. And so from that, we can do matching games and see exactly how much he knows on his own without my help.
Okay.
Similar to the occupational therapist, the speech pathologist also utilizes play therapy in helping develop Mark's awareness of the sights and sounds around him, which in turn develop a vital base for learning to communicate.
Brother. You found his brother.
John.
John. Is that bear's name John? Uh-oh. What happened? Fall down.
He can open up the block and tell me exactly what's inside.
I'm still achieving my goals because he's able to see what's inside of the block and, again, use his words to tell me what he sees.
In addition, the therapist closely monitors Mark's right and left ears to rule out any middle ear dysfunction that could inhibit Mark's learning processes.
All right, Mark.
Therapy has been very successful for Mark, who has gone from not speaking at all to communicating now in 5- and 6-word sentences.
E-I-E-I.
Oh.
Oh, oh.
What a door is opened when a child is given the help necessary to express himself, to experience the joy and freedom that comes from being able to communicate effectively.
Just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me.
But the Rocky Mountain Rehabilitation Center offers even more. In addition to physical, occupational, and speech therapy, the center is also taking the lead in ADHD, attention deficit, and hyperactivity disorder services.
Show what you would do if you were turned into your mother. Go crazy.
From evaluation to treatment, children and adults alike may receive the necessary help needed to control behavior associated with ADHD. The center also provides additional therapy services for the community beyond its work with ADHD. Child's Play, a full-service daycare preschool program, serves the needs of hundreds of families within our community, providing quality care and instruction to special needs and able-bodied children alike. Constantly continuing to upgrade and expand its programs to meet the needs of the community, the Rocky Mountain Rehabilitation Center is now one of the leading pediatric rehabilitation centers in our area.
Take this a little bit closer. Okay. There you go. Is she looking at him? There we go. Hop. There we go.
And beyond the technical therapy, the physical therapy, the occupational therapy, the speech and language therapy, there's that component of needing to give incredible sensitivity, compassion, and a genuine hope and a belief in that entire family. Because this is a situation that affects not just the child, but mother and father, brother and sister.
Over the course of days, weeks, and even years, the center remains there for the child and his family, reinforcing a sense of strength and hope. Strength from the standpoint of helping the family accept the disability, along with the limitations it brings. And hope that in spite of the disability, with quality professional care, a productive and rewarding life is really possible for all. Right, Kyle?
Give me a break, dude.
Okay. On behalf of Colorado Tech, thank you for joining us, and good night.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. Oh, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me. It's the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, or the mountain should crumble to the sea. I won't cry, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. And darling, darling, stand
This has been a special broadcast in conjunction with The More You Know, brought to you by Colorado Tech. Special people helping special people.
The future. What will we find? All we know for sure is that as spaceship Earth hurtles toward its rendezvous with tomorrow, our journey is fueled by technology.
Plug us in.
And education.
Thank you. Where's Earth? You should know. That's not our system. Scan.
Knowledge will guide us, and technology will provide the answers to questions
I found it.
as yet unasked.
Now that's our system. I know that.
Every day, Colorado Tech is preparing its students for that journey with a multi-million-dollar commitment to building the finest educational resource in our region, with people who understand the relationship between man and machine, and with tools that have names like Oracle, IG Spice, and Ada. As we leave the 20th century, some will see only obstacles. We see only opportunity. Because at Colorado Tech, we know that the discoveries our students make tomorrow depend on how well we teach them today.